podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We really do appreciate it, as always. It's going to be hard to ignore the fact that we have another square box with a face in it here with us. Dom Taylor has been a regular guest with us throughout the iteration of this podcast. But he's been on, obviously, all the audio versions of the show that we've done. So this is the first time you guys get to see his glorious face and all of his Alabama pride back there. So Dom, welcome to the show. We really do appreciate having you on.
Yeah, guys, thank you very much for having me back on. I really appreciate it. You know, it's like the summoning call. It's like the bat symbols up in the air, the CFB logo. You know, it's that time of season again, and I've been summoned back. So here we are. I can't wait to talk about some college football with you guys. Yeah.
So for those of you that don't know, when Dom we pretty much have always brought Dom on during college football season because there's not a guy who we know that's more connected to college football or better at talking about it than him. So Dom, just a quick overview for the people who don't know you. Just tell them why we bring you on because of your connection with Alabama and with college football and the media there.
Absolutely. Well, this is my fourth year here at the University of Alabama. And I've worked in our athletic department for the multimedia department specifically within our athletic department. So I've been a part of, different broadcasts and different things regarding multimedia for the university. And that gives me a lot of kind of opportunities to just work in sports and be around them. And it's essentially my major. I'm a news media major. I just graduated recently and I'm getting my master's in journalism now. But due to that, sports is my life. And so specifically, there's no better place for college football than the University of Alabama. And, it's everything. Saturdays in the fall here are quite the experience. I mean, I would suggest anybody come and experience it at some point. But it really is it's a cultural thing for me. And I always, not only for Alabama, but for just all of college football, I want to know what's going on. I'm always updating the scores. It doesn't matter the size of the game. It doesn't matter what's going on. To me, it's all important. It all kind of develops an overall picture of the season. And I just follow it religiously. I've got this season already has been phenomenal. And I'll let y'all kind of intro that. But I just follow it with a passion. And anytime I get a chance to talk about it, I love to do so. And so let me share that knowledge with everybody who will listen.
Okay, so that is sort of our preview to bring Dom in. Before we get to his college segment real quick, Sam, I want to say hi.
Hey pal, how's it going, man? And what a better guest to have on our first guest on the video sort of chapter of our podcast than Dom Taylor, who is, I think, our most frequent guest.
I think so far. I think so. We have had Dom on the most, but we bring him on because he's better than all of our other guests.
Whoa!
Wow.
Let's put it into perspective. Not saying better person, okay, but in terms of the most knowledge on the subject that we're bringing him on for, he's the best. I'm sorry, he's the best.
I appreciate it.
Let's get into it. Let's talk some college football. I'm excited. We haven't been able to talk about it in the last 3 weeks, and now we're finally getting to chat about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dom, we kind of gave you the floor. You got about anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes just to kind of give us a brief sort of overview of this college football season so far. We don't need to necessarily dive too deep into the weeds, but just kind of some overview of what we've seen so far and maybe some predictions going forward. So,
absolutely. The already, I think I briefly mentioned that in my little intro spiel there, but this season has shaped up to be one of the best in a while. And I know that's I'm full bias, I get it. That has nothing to do with Alabama and everything to do with the fact that the landscape of college football has been turned upside down. Everything that we know from the past 10 years is completely different this year, specifically because the three main teams that have, besides Alabama, that have essentially dominated the college football playoff, Clemson, Ohio State, and Oklahoma, all three of them look like they could lose on any given Saturday. Clemson looks terrible. They're already 2-2, which is insane. They had a streak, the second longest streak of beating unranked teams. They had a streak of 35 straight unranked opponents. They finally lost against North Carolina State just this last week. They already lost to Georgia in week 1. So they have 2 losses and have officially been completely eliminated from the college football playoff already in week 4, which is insane. That was completely unforeseen before this year. For Ohio State, they already lost to Oregon, a fantastic win by the Ducks. Huge props, Sam. I know that that must have been amazing just to experience that as a Ducks fan, winning against Ohio State. Not a lot of people can say that they pulled that off, especially going into Columbus and doing that. That was an incredible win. Actually, I want to hear from you real quick, just like what was the experience like after that happened? Are you still on campus, or what? As a Ducks fan, what was that like to experience that?
So no, I'm not in Eugene anymore. But as a Ducks fan, just being ingratiated into that culture for so long, being inside the community for so long, and once a Duck, always a Duck. So a part of me is like, that's awesome that they won, but another part is like, this isn't the best Oregon team that we've seen necessarily in the last 5 years. And it's crazy that this team was the one to get that big win. Like, I would have loved to see a Justin Herbert led Oregon Ducks team, and that team that specifically lost to Auburn in the opening weekend. That team, it would have been so cool to see if they got this big win and got this national spotlight that this team is getting. So, I mean, it was awesome that they were able to control that game, especially coming off of what they did against Fresno State and how they didn't look very good at all. Like, Fresno State was just dogging them around, and they somehow miraculously was able to out-talented that team and get a dub. But to flip the script and totally control Ohio State, which is top 3, maybe even top 2, one of the most dominant college football programs in the last decade, is just amazing. And it's completely surprising, and I just hope that they can carry this on and stay undefeated to get into that college football playoff, to earn the right to lose to Alabama eventually.
Well, that's fair, but I mean, Alabama. Listen, I'll get into that in a second, but Alabama may not be the best team in college football right now. There are some concerns with this team.
One other thing, you got to give huge props to Mario Cristobal and his staff on the job that they've done in flipping this program around. Like, the recruiting that they have done, they've totally changed. If you were to think of the Oregon Ducks in 5 years ago with the Mariota led, the Chip Kelly, like the totally fast offense, they're completely different now. And they've totally flipped the script top to bottom. And the fact that they've been able to find success in a different way, in a more SEC way, even though it's probably nothing close to what Alabama and Georgia are, it's just so cool to see. You got to give props to that coaching staff, and Mario Cristobal specifically. He deserves all the love for flipping around this program.
He completely flipped it. And I mean, the fact that, the Chip Kelly days of Oregon only recruiting 5-star offensive players and having nothing on defense, that's completely switched. I mean, now you've got Kayvon Thibodeau, Justin Flo, and like Noah Sewell. Those are 3 5-star recruits on defense. That's completely flipped the script. And it was only the defense that, essentially dominated. Well, not only, it was a complete team effort, but the defense drastically improved from the last few years. And so, yeah, huge props, like you said, to Cristobal. Oregon, that was their toughest game. I think that they are on a one-way course to the Pac-12 championship, and then they win that against whatever other sorry Pac-12 team they're going to play. They're going to get into the college football playoff. I'm sorry. Listen, it's a completely top-heavy conference right now. Completely top-heavy.
It was looking like UCLA was going to be able to carry on and maybe give Oregon a little more strength of schedule if they were to meet them in the Pac-12 championship. But it's just so sad that Utah have fallen off. Washington's not nearly what they were. It is tough that Oregon can't find that sort of running mate to prop up the Pac-12.
They should. I think they should probably vie for Fresno State to join the conference. Quite honestly, it
Yeah, kick Oregon State out.
Yeah, kick Oregon. Hey, great idea. Kick Oregon State out. There's probably 4 different teams that deserve to be kicked out of the Pac-12, demoted to a Group of 5 conference. Maybe FCS. Who knows? I think that it's pretty black and white at this point. I mean, barring Oregon has been notorious for losing to teams they shouldn't late in the season. So barring something like that happening, they should be into the college football playoff. Ohio State was by far their hardest game, and they passed with flying colors.
You mentioned the college football playoff, and I wanted to ask you specifically about this because more so recently, within the past like 6 months, I've heard a lot of conversation about the expansion of the college football playoffs and then teams moving conferences and all that stuff. So I want to get your opinion on the possibility of the college football playoffs expanding. And if you think, 1, that is a good idea, and 2, if yes, then what is, in your mind, the ideal number of teams that would be good for a college football playoffs, where it'd be 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, whatever. I wanted to get your take on that because, you're a college football guy. So
yes. As for the playoff, I'm very frustrated that there was so much talk about moving it to 12, let alone the fact that they're talking about 12. To me, 8 is the number. I think 8 is a great number for the college football playoff because it gives a chance for the conference champions, automatic bid, whatever. I mean, more than likely, if you're a conference champion, you're going to get in anyway. So there may not be a need for an automatic bid, but you still get like Cincinnati right now. They are I think they're number 7. They're the 7 or 8. Never before has a Group of 5 team gotten into the playoff, but a lot of teams have deserved it. That's an easy. You leave a spot open for a Group of 5 team. One can jump in there. They could surprise the entire landscape of college football. I'm definitely for that. It pisses me off a little bit, quite honestly, that the whole time people have been asking to move on from 4 teams, and everybody's been like, let's do 6 teams or let's do 8 teams. And then the college football playoff committee was like, okay, let's do 12. It's like, we didn't say 12. We said 6 or 8. Like, America wants 6 or 8 teams in the college football playoff. That seems to be about the right number. I tend to go with 8 because 6 is because if you give,
you have to have a bye, right?
Well, yeah, you have to have a bye, but let's be honest. It's hard enough to beat Alabama or Georgia or Ohio State. If you give them another bye, yeah, come on, like you're not going to beat them. So I think 8 is a good number. I think everybody should have to play the same amount of games. Mm-hmm. But there was a lot of talk, and it seemed like it was going in the direction of this is going to pass. It seemed like there were a lot of administrators that were highly in favor of it. And then I don't know the specifics off the top of my head, but there was a vote that needed to be unanimous. And it sounds like there was like one dude who was like, no, we're not going to go with that. There was a specific administrator.
Okay. Call him out, put his name on blast.
Right? Seriously, I wish I knew it. I wish off the top of my head, I knew who the guy was, but nothing ever became of it. And I think they're just going to go through the same kind of legislation again this year. I'm hoping they change it. But with what's been going on this year, it might completely nullify the need to open up the playoff. Because
is this year an outlier in that sense?
Definitely.
Right. So that may not be something that they can bank on going forward then.
Right. Because I'll give you my playoff prediction right now just because it's topical. Yeah. Georgia, I got Georgia number 1, which I'll get into that. Oregon 2, Alabama 3, Notre Dame 4. So we haven't, obviously Georgia and Alabama have been in the playoff before, so was Notre Dame. Oregon was in there once. And these are some of the same teams that have been in there, but you've got Oklahoma, Ohio State, and Clemson absent. So again, it's the argument of like, well, it's the same teams getting in, but it's teams that haven't gotten it as much. There's also other teams that could be close, like Penn State and Iowa are 4 and 5. They're going to take care of each other because they each have like 3 or 4 ranked games coming up. Iowa could lose this week against Maryland. I mean, they looked terrible last week. They almost lost to Colorado State. So you're going to see a huge shift in the top 10 through the next few weeks. October is going to be chaos for college football. I mean, ridiculous. Alabama has Georgia itself. They have 3 ranked matchups and a really underrated Kentucky team. If they get through that, more than likely they are a lock to go to the SEC championship game for one.
Yeah, so you're right. They have Arkansas, Auburn, and Florida.
Yeah. So
it's a tough schedule.
It's a brutal schedule. Alabama, we have 4 ranked opponents left. We have Ole Miss this week, which potential upset alert. I'm going to be completely honest.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely potential upset alert. Matt Corral is the Heisman favorite right now for Ole Miss. He's been putting up ridiculous numbers. They've been blowing out opponents. Their offense is high-powered. We almost lost at their stadium last year. This year, they look even better. So there's a potential that there's an upset, and it could be Alabama. Honestly, we can afford 1 loss this year because all the other teams are most likely going to have a loss except for Georgia and probably Oregon.
I was going to ask about Oregon because I just looked at their schedule, and it looks like they only have 1 ranked game, and that's UCLA.
Right. So, is that at home or away?
They are at UCLA.
Yeah. Okay. So that could be tough. That's probably their toughest game left.
So are you making this ranking based on the fact that you think, so you put Georgia at 1. So are you saying that they have the easiest slate to get to number 1 right now?
No, I'm saying I think that they will probably beat us in the SEC championship game.
Okay.
And then I know you're probably thinking, well, that means you're going to have a 1-loss Alabama over an undefeated Notre Dame. Mm-hmm. Alabama played a way tougher schedule at this point of the season. Alabama will have played a way tougher schedule than Notre Dame played. Notre Dame is primarily playing independent opponents or ACC opponents. And the ACC is a hot, steaming mess of garbage right now. Terrible. I mean, the highest ranked team in the ACC is North Carolina State that just beat Clemson, and they're at 23. To put that in perspective, the highest ranked teams for all the other conferences are within the top 6. So the highest ranked team for the ACC is 23. So it's terrible. And that's primarily who Notre Dame is playing. So they're playing a bunch of very easy opponents for the rest of the season. Cincinnati is probably their toughest opponent. So if they get past Cincinnati, more than likely they're going to cruise through the rest of the season, as Notre Dame does with their independent schedule, and they'll get in. They just handled Wisconsin this last week, 41-13. It's pretty much a lock at this point if they handle Cincinnati. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of an overview of what's happened. Yeah. A little bit of kind of some of the future games that are really going to decide it. I think the biggest games, if I can give you like 3, the biggest games that will decide the landscape of college football. The first one is probably going to be this upcoming weekend against Ole Miss for Alabama. Okay. The second is going to be Georgia against actually another one this week, Georgia against Arkansas and Georgia against Florida. If they beat those 2 teams.
When is the Georgia-Florida game? What week
Georgia,
is that?
Florida is, I believe, at the end of the month.
Okay, just to let everybody know when to tune in and stuff.
Yes, yeah. So that's going to be at the end of the month, and then that's already 3. So let's give you like a top 5. The other 2 definitely going to be.
We don't have to put a number on it. Just say notable ones.
Yeah,
yeah.
This also is in no particular order, so that's probably right. Penn State at Ohio State. Those 2 are going to take care of themselves. There's a chance Ohio State, I know I didn't put them in my playoff, but there's a chance they run the table and somehow get in 2. Because the Oregon loss is not bad at all. So there's a chance the committee looks at, a 11-1 Ohio State could be 12-1 if they win the Big 12 or the Big 10, and put them in over Notre Dame. That's also a possibility too. Because they have like 4 ranked matchups left. The Big 10 is very stacked right now. Michigan's ranked, Michigan State's ranked, Iowa's ranked. So that's a really tough conference. So probably Penn State at Ohio State. And then that Ohio State-Michigan game could be very telling as well. A rivalry week at the very end. So all those decide a lot. Oklahoma, I think they're going to lose at some point. My my two predictors are probably against Baylor, which is like the third to last week of the game of the season, and then against Oklahoma State. And both of those teams are playing very, very well right now. I believe both are ranked. Oklahoma's not playing good at all. They had their lowest point total in years yesterday. They put up 16 points against West Virginia and still won somehow. So again, like I said, with college football, the script is completely flipped. Oklahoma's playing defense now and beating teams by 3 points on the road. It's crazy, and their quarterback isn't the front runner for the Heisman. So it's a weird season, guys. And that's pretty much how I can sum it up. It's been really weird, but I love it. It's refreshing for college football because I know everybody's tired of this. I get it.
You're not.
I'm not at all. No,
right.
Yeah, absolutely not. I can see
Why
it.
would you be?
No.
Yeah. Enjoy it.
Right. I think we're still a favorite to win it all anyways, so it's
probably.
So what is, I know you've mentioned a couple times now, Alabama.
We only got a little bit more time, so
we'll finish third. You see they're going to struggle against other SEC teams. They may even lose against Georgia in the championship game. Where is this vulnerability coming from Alabama? Because they haven't lost. There's no reason to panic, really. I know they're not blowing out teams, but where do you see the vulnerability and maybe the weaknesses that could prove to be Alabama's downfall toward the end?
Right. It's our defense. It's our defense and the fact that we don't seem to be able to score on command like we used to because of all the talent we've lost to the NFL. And we're doing great, but it's just a matter of like our offensive line is completely shuffled. So there's some inconsistencies with the run game and with protecting Bryce Young, our quarterback. So we score very often, but it's not like we're going to score every drive. It's a bad year to have that coupled with having like 5 ranked teams in the SEC West. The SEC West alone, there is a weekend in 2 weeks where there are 3 SEC matchups that are ranked. So you've got 6 SEC teams that are all ranked at the top 25 playing each other, and 5 of those teams are from one division, the one Alabama plays in. So it's a completely stacked year. We're going to be playing a ton of tough opponents with great offenses, and our defense is kind of a little suspect. I mean, we let up hundreds of rushing yards against Florida. We let them creep back into that game. Our defense played very shoddy. And that's just kind of, it's been sloppy. The other big thing is penalties. We have, we're ranked close to last in penalties per game, like in the FBS, like we're like back 100. So it's bad. There are some kind of discipline things that, with the penalties, like I just said, that have been a problem, and a little bit of the defense. So it's just this month is going to be telling once we get through some of these ranked matchups. And if we win, we should have solved some of those problems. But if not, that's why I think Georgia's the number 1 team, because they don't have those problems. And I'll be completely honest with it. They'll probably beat us if we were to play them right now. But once we get to Atlanta in December, that's when we'll see how all this is kind of shaped up.
Right. Well, Dom, we could make a whole show out of college football, and truthfully, maybe we end up doing that towards the back half of the season. We get 1 or 2 shows where we just dedicate to college football, because I think it does have such a big audience, and because of how, like you said, how mixed this season is, it might actually draw more people into it, because maybe some teams get in that, don't normally get in, and there's some mix up between 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we don't see Alabama at 1 and Clemson's gone. So later on down the road, yeah, we definitely do need to take more time to do a whole college football episode. And we'll either do another episode for the NFL or just do like a tiny recap. But we'll definitely need to get you back on, and we'll dedicate a whole show to it, or a couple shows to it, because it's always fun to talk about college football. And I was thinking of like 4 or 5 other questions I wanted to ask you during that. So I'm sorry to cut you off, but we'll get you back on soon, and we'll have a whole entire show for college football.
No problem at all. Sounds great. Can't wait for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you again for coming on. We hope you all loved Dom and his insight, because we always have fun talking to him. So, and you'll see him again very shortly. So thanks for coming on, man. We really do appreciate it.
Absolutely, guys. Anytime. Roll Tide. I'll talk to you guys later.
See you, Dom.
See you, man. I love having him on the show. I really do.
Yeah, I'm glad we finally got to bring that to the video side of the podcast. It's always fun talking to Dom, man, especially when he doesn't bag on Oregon, which hasn't been the case every time.
Right, he's had a history of that. The back and forth between you two is something that has been very entertaining on the show.
So that was very pleasant.
Right. Oh, man. So that was good.
It must be tough though when you're used to it. It must have been like being a New England fan when Tom was there. Like all you're used to is excellence. Like everything else must look just totally putrid.
For sure. But yeah, we definitely do need to bring him back on for a whole show because I'm sure you were doing the same thing I was. Just there were more questions that felt like needed to be asked. So
yeah, we didn't even get to Heisman people to watch. I mean, he is just so thorough and so complete with his knowledge of the college football landscape. Like the fact that he was able to go through pretty much preview the entire season in a matter of 15 minutes is exceptional. I mean, there's nothing like him, man. People out there, you spread Dom Taylor's name. That he deserves to be famous.
Yeah, he's good at what he does. So yeah, we're definitely going to take advantage of knowing him and bring him back on for a whole show because it's a lot of fun to have him on there. But we have to move on. We have to get to the NFL now. We'll shift gears towards week 3 of the NFL season. I'll run through the scores real quickly in case you guys didn't catch one certain score. It won't take me that long. We got the Panthers over the Texans 24-9. Chargers upset the Chiefs, or isn't an upset. We'll get to that later. 30-24. Cardinals kind of escaped the Jaguars. The game was closer than the score really leads on. 31-19 over the Jaguars. Browns beat the Bears. I don't know what's going on in Chicago. Bills beat Washington 43-21. Titans beat the Colts 25-16. Saints over the Patriots 28-13. Falcons beat the Giants 17-19. Bengals beat the Steelers 24-10. Ravens over the Lions with Justin Tucker's record-breaking field goal 19-17. The Broncos thumped the Jets 26-0. Raiders barely beat the Dolphins 31-28. They get to 3-0 on the season. Rams beat the Buccaneers 34-24. Vikings beat the Seahawks 30-17. Packers beat the 49ers, and currently the Cowboys are winning over the Eagles, assuming that game is going to end the same exact way that it has gone so far. We're assuming Dallas is going to win this game. They are in complete control of this game right now, and they look really good. So Sam last week sort of brought the new format for how we're going to do this going forward. He asked some questions about week 3. I got 3 questions for him about week 3 that he and I will go back and forth on. Then we'll go into our power rankings for week 3 or through week 3 of the NFL season. And then we'll preview week 4. So we're going to run right through this, and we hope you guys enjoy what we got coming for you. So Sam, first question for you.
Jason.
The Rams, they beat the Buccaneers 34-24. Game was probably a little bit, it was only a 10-point game, but it was a bigger lead than kind of that score leads on. So I got to ask, have the Rams proved to you now that they are the Super Bowl favorites at this point in time?
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt in my mind. The Los Angeles Rams have proven from both sides of the ball that they are the best team in the NFL. The seamless integration of Matthew Stafford into this Sean McVay offense has been so effortless. And I'm sure I would love to have seen Sean McVay's face when they got this deal done. He probably celebrated this more than, I don't even know, making the Super Bowl. Like this, right. Getting this guy into this offense, and the fact that he hasn't even learned it completely. Like this is only his 3rd game in this offense, and it looks this good already. What can you say about Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods? Cooper Kupp may be the best wide receiver in the NFL.
How does that? That Matthew Stafford is making him look like it.
I mean, watch out, Jerry Rice. Cooper Kupp might be coming for your records. Who knows what's going on? I mean, this team and what they're doing on the defensive side, Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey leading that defense. They're getting great contributions from Leonard Floyd on the other side. This team is playing out of their mind. They've beaten now the Bears, which granted wasn't that great of a win, but it was against an Andy Dalton-led Bears team, which is probably a little better than Justin Fields-led Bears team. They beat a pretty good Colts team before Carson Wentz was injured, and then they were able to beat the previous looked like Super Bowl frontrunners in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and really handled them until Tom made a last-minute unconsequential touchdown late to get the score closer. But there's no way that you can doubt what the Rams are doing. I mean, it is scary as a fan of a team in the NFC West. I just hope that Shanahan can work that magic and beat Sean McVay one more time.
Yeah, so Matthew Stafford went 27 for 38, 343 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. It wasn't a hot take for me to say at the beginning of this season that the Rams were going to be really good and that Matthew Stafford was going to be an MVP frontrunner. I don't think that was anywhere near a hot take. So I'm not trying to toot my own horn or anything, but I think what I thought they were going to be, they're better.
That's exactly what I was going to say. They've exceeded all expectations I had for them.
Yeah, that's the point that I assumed they were going to be good, and I assumed Matthew Stafford was going to be great, but I still thought that the Buccaneers were going to be the premier team in the NFC. They're not. They're just not. And maybe that is because the Buccaneers right now don't have a completely healthy defense. And if we learned anything from last year is they got better as the season went along. So maybe they start to peak later on in the season. We'll see what happens week 10 through 17. Yeah, 17 now. So
it's 18.
It's actually 18 now. Yeah, it's 18 now. So we'll see what happens. But from this point through week 3, the Rams they're stupid good. And Matthew Stafford is really good. They have weapons everywhere. Deshaun Jackson showed up, had 3 catches for 120 yards and a touchdown. Cooper Kupp, 9 receptions, 96 yards. They got Van Jefferson, who's come out of from out of the blue. Tyler Higbee is obviously a really good tight end in the league. Don't forget about Robert Woods. Henderson was out, and they just replaced him with Sony Michel, who had 67 yards on the day. I mean, they have weapons everywhere. And then I don't even have to mention who's on defense with number 99, with big old number 99, Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. I mean, they played so well. And for as shoddy as maybe the Buccaneers defense have been, their offense hasn't been. Their offense has been good. I mean, they put up 31 points, then they put up 48 points, albeit against Atlanta, but they were still moving. They got shut down. They got shut down by the Rams in this game. So the Rams clearly, I agree with you, are the number 1 team in the entire NFL at the moment right now.
And there's no way that we could have saw this coming. I mean, Deshaun Jackson looks like he's running faster now than he did in his Eagles. Like there was I think it was just that crossing route late in the game where Stafford threw it to him right on the first down marker, and then he just zoop down the sideline. It was like, whoa, that is isn't he mid-30s, like on the wrong side of 30 now? And he looked really good. And they got him, they finally got connected late on a deep ball. Like that is just another element to this offense where you can have Cooper Kupp, who seems unguardable right now. Robert Woods hasn't even been a major factor in this offense, and he was supposed to be the primary target. And now you have Deshaun Jackson, who's able to take the top off the defense. And they haven't even gotten their running game sorted yet. And that's the main part of this offense. The running game is supposed to feed into the passing game.
Because of the play action.
That's what this West Coast offense is. That's what this Sean McVay offense is. I mean, think back to great Sean McVay teams. They had first Todd Gurley, who was looking like the league MVP, and that was the prime of this offense. And then they beat the Cowboys with great running and really stellar play by Jared Goff. But now you have a guy that can take it to an even higher level in Matthew Stafford, and he hasn't even reached the surface of what's to come. Like he has room for improvement now, and understanding. I can't imagine what this offense is going to be like next year.
Yeah, 2-3 years from now, because Matthew Stafford's been in the league for a while, but he's got some years left. He still has good football in front of him.
If they keep him upright, and this Rams offensive line is playing phenomenal.
Yeah. I mean, Matthew, I don't know how old he is. I'll do a quick search at the moment, but I think he's like early 30s, I believe.
2009.
Yeah, he's 33. I mean, he's still realistically, as let's say he plays till he's 40, he's still got 7 years left. And let's say 5 of those are still in his prime. They have a good window to win right there, to get at least 1 or 2 Super Bowls. And if they keep this current iteration of this team. So yeah, they're going to be very good for a while.
This upcoming week is going to be a huge test for them to play another good team in Arizona. Yeah. I mean, if they are able to shut down that Arizona offense and really limit their explosiveness, that's going to be a major tell to the rest of the NFC that the Rams you're going to go through LA. That's the bottom line. If they're able to handle Arizona, then man, that's a whew. As the Cowboys are now up 34-14.
Yeah. So you talked about limiting explosiveness. That'll lead me into my second question. Let me ask you something. What has surprised you most? The Chiefs being 1-2 and them maybe not being as explosive on offense and having some major questions on defense. Has the Chiefs being 1-2 surprised you more than the Raiders being 3-0 in that same division? We looked at at the beginning of the season, I think if you would have asked most people, the division would have gone the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Broncos, and the Raiders. That was how people were going to put them in terms of where they were going to fall this season. As it stands right now, that's flipped. It is the Raiders, the Broncos, the Chargers, and the Chiefs. Completely probably backwards than what most people believed. I'll admit, as a Raider fan, I thought they were going to be better than Denver, but I didn't see this start coming. So what do you think? Chiefs being 1-2 or the Raiders being 3-0?
I think it's got to be the Raiders being 3-0, especially when at the start of the year, if you were to tell me that they would be able to beat Baltimore, Pittsburgh, and Miami. Granted, Miami had their starting quarterback injured, but still they were up to the task on Sunday to play with Vegas. But the fact that they were able to come away and not, frankly, Raider it up, what we've seen, I mean, they've definitely been prone to losing to teams that they really shouldn't have. And they've been able to win close games and find a way to, and I mean, really the fact that Derek Carr is playing at an MVP level still is amazing. The Chiefs, I'm not surprised by the 1-2. I mean, they had to play. They started with Cleveland,
Browns,
Baltimore,
Ravens,
and
Chargers,
which could all three very well and look like playoff teams in the AFC at the end of this year. And that's just a grueling start for any team, even the mighty Kansas City Chiefs. And really, they could be 3-0. In all seriousness, that Baltimore game could have gone either way. Granted, they could have lost against Cleveland, but they found a way to win that game. Like, all these games have been super tight, and they've almost all been playoff atmospheres that this team is playing in. And that Chargers game, they turned the ball over on their first 2 possessions of that game and still wound up scoring 24 points. Like, that shows their offense is explosive. Like, that explosiveness is still there against
not only that, but
defense.
they lost 2 fumbles too. So there's 2 picks and 2 fumbles. They had 4 on the day.
Yeah, but they started the year. Started the game with 3 straight turnovers. Allaire.
It was pretty bad. Allaire had a rough day.
He had whatever. But like that, even with all those obstacles, and it came out that Andy Reid wasn't feeling well after the game. Yeah. Who knows if that was during the game, if he wasn't feeling well. It sounded like he did end up going to the hospital. It sounded like he was fine. That
he is okay well. Now. Yeah.
But with all these things surrounding that game, and Kansas City was still able to put up 24 against a really good Chargers team. I think that's just like that team is fine. There should be no panic button with the Chiefs. I think they're still playing as one of the best teams in the NFL. It just the ball hasn't bounced their way. I think that's as simple as that against 3 good teams in the NFL.
Right. I agree. I think that, as a Raider fan, they just set an interesting record the other with that win. They are the first team in NFL history to start 3-0 against three teams who made the playoffs in the previous season. The only team to ever do that. So the Raiders
Dolphins didn't make the playoffs.
I'm sorry, not to make the playoffs, to win 10 games. My apology. They're the first.
You
yeah.
suck. You suck. Try it again. Take two.
I'm terrible. Anyway, so that is an interesting stat. We look at Pittsburgh. We'll see what happens with Pittsburgh. That win against them. The reason why that win looks
Pittsburgh
good.
Sucks.
Yeah, Pittsburgh's. Yeah, the thing that stinks about Pittsburgh right now is that their team is good, but Ben being quarterback is really hurting them right now. So the win against Pittsburgh only looks good because of the circumstances around winning a late game on Monday night, having a short week, playing early on Sunday in Pittsburgh against the Steelers team who at that time just beat the Bills. So that's why that game looks good. The Dolphins game, I know people are going to say that, Jacoby Brissett was in and Tua wasn't in. They looked better with Brissett. And I didn't even really think about that until you mentioned it, but Brissett looked good. He really did. He played really well. He threw the ball 49 times, only had 215 yards, but they weren't really getting explosive plays unless the stat line may not jump off the sheet to you, but he did play really well. And the Ravens are the Ravens, and they're a good team too. The Raiders had every chance to give that game away. They really did, especially in overtime when you have a team 4th and 20 and you give up a first down conversion on that in overtime. That was brutal to watch. So I think you're right. I think the Raiders being 3-0 is a little bit more of a surprise, and it's not because I think the Chiefs are bad. Like you said, it's just that's a rough start to the schedule to open with the Browns, then the Ravens, then the Chargers. I know the Raiders haven't had an easy slate of games to open up the season either, but those 3 games don't really compare to the strength of schedule that Kansas City has had. I mean, Cleveland's better than Pittsburgh, and they both played the Ravens. So then you bring it to the teams who they've played that are different. So you bring it to the Browns and the Dolphins. Well, the Browns are better than the Dolphins, and so are the Chargers. So
I think it's also a testament to, we're not talking about Denver being 3-0.
No, and so so Denver has played the Giants, the Jaguars, and the Jets. So while they are 3-0, that is not a very impressive slate of games.
Like, the Raiders look legit. They look like a
good football team.
Very poised to make the playoffs some way, somehow. I don't know if they're going to be division leaders. I mean, that both Wests are just crazy right now.
They're
so who knows what's going to happen, but I feel like the Raiders may be left standing at the end there in making the playoffs. It's some way, but the way that they're winning these games, these 3 games are huge for this team, especially with tiebreakers towards the end of the year. So
yeah. And last final thought on this, because we probably won't spend any more time on the Raiders, is they've just been really resilient. Like, they go down 14 points to the Ravens. They come back, they fight back, they win in overtime. Same thing, with the Dolphins. They start the game with a pick 6. Derek doesn't throw interceptions, and especially not pick 6s. There was actually, when you watch the replay, there was some miscue between him and Foster Moreau. I think there was a zone coverage, and Foster stopped, and Derek thought he was going to keep running because he just threw it right to the linebacker. And everybody, even people in the booth, were like, that just looked like a miscue more than anything else between him and the tight end. So to open up the game with that, and then to have another turnover on downs after that as well. So just open up the game with 2 straight turnovers. It was 14-2 in the first quarter, and they had no momentum at all. To come back, fight back against Miami, who has a good defense. May not have a phenomenal offense, but they do have a solid defense. Come back and do that. They've been playing really well, and it's nice. It's nice to see that they have been as resilient as they have been, because you would hope that towards the end of the season, these are learning experiences that they could put together to avoid maybe going into overtime every single week. So,
yeah, right. It's definitely going to be So what's reassuring is that Miami game was a game they should have won,
Yeah.
and they ended up winning. So that's one of the things that good teams do to make the playoffs. They beat the teams that they're supposed to, and they split with teams that are 50-50. That's the key.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
And
as simple as that.
we'll see what happens next Monday night primetime game, Raiders versus Chargers. Interesting note about that game. Wonder how many Raider fans are going to be in that building, because normally when the Raiders went to San Diego or LA, the Raiders fans turned it into a home game for them. So that's going to be interesting. They travel well in the California area. So we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening there. So last question for you. We're going back to the NFC real quick. I'll ask you this. So we just mentioned the Raiders being really good in the AFC. The Chiefs might still be, quote unquote, the top dog in the AFC, maybe until really proven otherwise. If we are assuming that the Rams, and we just said a few moments ago that the Rams are the Super Bowl favorites for both divisions, who are we saying from the AFC and NFC are 1 and 2? So in terms of the Rams are just at the top. So who's the first one to be right under them and who is right after that? Encompassing of all divisions. Who are the next 2 best teams, you think, that could challenge them later on down the road?
So just purely in the NFC, and then you want to do the AFC next?
Yeah, one from the AFC and one from the NFC. I didn't phrase it that well.
Yeah, but you didn't phrase it at all.
But I'm trying not to make this into a power rankings thing. I'm more just asking you to predict who do you think is going to be the next team that could knock off the Rams potentially coming out of the AFC or the NFC?
The next team for me, that's a tough one without any preparation. I don't know I don't think the Chargers are there yet. They're still a little unproven, but they have the sort of the track record that would make one think that they would be able to top them. It's tough for me to say Tampa Bay because they just lost soundly to the Rams. Wouldn't say Arizona. Maybe Buffalo.
And so see this, so I'm actually glad that this has turned into what it has with this question, because the point that I'm trying to make here, and I think that's partially why it was hard for me to phrase the question, because I almost didn't want you to give me an answer, because I think that at this point in time, do the Rams just look like head and shoulders better than everybody else through week 3 right now?
Well,
is there really a number 2 team?
So it's tough because we've only seen, like, I would love to see the Rams lose. I want to see what their weaknesses are. No, just as a analyst. I don't know if we can call ourselves analysts, but it would be cool it would be easier for us to sit here and know what it looks like when the Rams lose, so then we could be like, oh, that team matches up well against them. Right? But we don't have that information. Like, challengers have come and they've been sent down by the Rams completely in 3 weeks of this season. So I think it's a little early to proclaim them a step above, because I still think the Chiefs are playing well. The Bills against not as good opponents have looked great. I mean, they've definitely put that Pittsburgh loss behind them, and they've answered every single doubt. I mean, Josh Allen went in fuego this last week.
Oh, I know. The guy who I'm playing in fantasy has
it. Hey, watch out for Zeke. Did Zeke score again?
Oh yeah. So we're keeping track of this. So for those of you that don't know, I was 30 points ahead in fantasy, and the only player left on this guy's team that I'm playing against is Zeke. And right now, with 6 minutes left, they're in the red zone right now. I am up by 4 points. So we'll see what happens by the end of this game. Hopefully, I'll know by the end of the broadcast.
I see a Tony Pollard touchdown inbound.
I hope so.
Not Zeke. But
I hope so.
Like, I don't think Dallas is up there, even though they look great.
They do look.
I mean, they look like a really good team. I wouldn't say Green Bay is up there. It's just, it's tough because they're the team that has shown the least amount of weaknesses, I would say, the Rams. but I think Kansas City still looks good. Buffalo looks good. Yeah, it'd be cool to see. Stafford's just the new toy right now that looks all shiny and there's no blemishes right now. Yeah. That's why he's easy to like.
So part of the reason that I asked this question for last, I know I went NFC, AFC, NFC, but part of the reason why I asked this question last is because we are going to bring you guys the show's first power rankings for the NFL. So before we read off this power ranking, we have to put a disclaimer in front of this power rankings versus so what it is and what it isn't. So the way that we did this power ranking was like college football. So we are taking into account what we have seen through 3 weeks, and based on who they've played, how they've looked, we are not projecting what we think they are going to look like later on down the road. There are going to be some teams probably in places that you wouldn't expect necessarily in this type of power ranking, because we're not saying, like, I'll give you guys an example. We have the Raiders pretty high on this list, but we're not saying that they are, where they are on the power ranking. We're not saying they're the second, third, fourth best team in the league. We're saying through 3 weeks and who they've played, they have looked like the best, or wherever they are on the ranking. I won't give away where it is. So that's how we did it. So there are going to be 3-0 teams. Denver is left off of this list for that reason. They've played the Giants, they've played the Jaguars, and they've played the Jets. They've won all those games, yes, but they haven't been against good teams at all. All 3 of those teams are 0-3, and they've just been scraping the bottom of the barrel. So I guess they're 3-0, but that doesn't automatically put them in the power rankings. The reason why we're doing this is we've seen a lot of power rankings over the past couple of weeks that have really been kind of blowing our minds. So it's time to set the record straight on what the actual power rankings should be. So with that being in mind, Sam, read the list, man. Let them know what the actual power rankings should be.
Yeah, so we're just going to really quickly read the list. It's going to be either to my left or right, but it'll be beside us right now. So at 10, we have the Dallas Cowboys. 9, we have the Tennessee Titans. 8, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 7, we have the Baltimore Ravens. 6, we have the Arizona Cardinals. 5, we have the Green Bay Packers. 4, we have the Buffalo Bills. 3, we have the Los Angeles Chargers. 2, we have the Las Vegas Raiders. And number 1, like we've been just heaping all this praise on them, the Los Angeles Rams.
So again, the reason why I wanted to put out that disclaimer before this is because we have the Las Vegas Raiders at number 2. You go to any power rankings, I guarantee you right now, they're not going to probably be in anybody's top 5. But we kind of think that that's an issue, because if you're just taking into account what these teams have done through 3 weeks, the Raiders of who they've beaten and how they beat them, they deserve to be at the very top of this list. We're not saying they're the second best team in the league, because they're not. But right now they've been playing like it. So in terms of our list, I think one team that people are going to maybe would fight with us for is maybe Carolina. Why isn't Carolina on this list? When we just kind of settled with the fact that Dallas just, in their games that they've played, you look at the circumstances that surrounded that first game against the Buccaneers. So they go to Tampa, and it's Dak's first game back, and they go toe-to-toe with the Super Bowl champions. Now, even though that they lost, that was a great game. That was a great game for the Cowboys. Their defense looked much better. Then they go to Los Angeles against the Chargers. They beat the Chargers in the Chargers' home opener at SoFi Stadium. They looked great. And then they just absolutely obliterated the Eagles. They have looked really, really good. And while Carolina has looked good as well, it just wasn't enough for us to put them over. I mean, again, they've played the Jets. They've played the Texans. And yes, they play the Saints, who knows what the Saints are. But that would be one that I could see people fighting. So.
Yeah, it's much like what college football does. It's the strength of schedule. It's the significant wins against ranked opponents. So, I mean, Dallas has beaten our number 3 team. That's a huge win, and their only loss is against another top 10 team. Yes, Carolina hasn't lost, but like teams that are in not outside a Power 5 conference, their strength of schedule is just so much weaker than comparable teams. That's why they can't slide in, even though they are undefeated.
So another team that I think people would be interested to see why they're not on the top 10 list would be the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns were everybody's darling to win the Super Bowl this year. I heard so many people talking about the Cleveland Browns are going to win the Super Bowl. They're going to do really well. I picked them to win the division. I still feel pretty safe about that pick. We'll see what the Ravens end up doing towards the end of the season. But you look at the games that they've played. They lost to the Chiefs. Not a bad loss. They only lost by 4 points, and they should have won that game. They really should have. But then they go and they play the Texans. They beat the Texans, fine, and then they beat the Bears, who are not very good at all. And I mean, that's as
not very
nicely.
Good.
That's as nicely as I can put it.
So they were struggling. Let's look back at that week 2 matchup against Houston. Struggling with Houston. And then Tyrod Taylor gets injured, and the whole complexity of that game changes, and Cleveland, rightly so, takes control and ends up winning, right? As they should. I think that Chicago win is totally hinging on if Justin Fields were to go out next week and play like night and day better than he was against Cleveland. And it showed that Cleveland was the reason and not Matt Nagy intentionally making his quarterback look bad to validate his decision.
Yeah, that was.
If it were to come out that, oh my gosh, this Cleveland Browns defensive line is the second coming of like Lawrence Taylor's New York Giants defensive line, and like what Von Miller's Denver Broncos defensive line carried that team to a championship. If this Cleveland Browns defensive line looks and feels like that in coming weeks, then maybe that win looks a lot more impressive. But right now, it seems like they came up against a head coach that was calling a game really kind of to lose almost.
Yeah.
And they were the beneficiary of that.
So let me just show you guys something real quick. So I'm going to show you the stat line to show you that I'm not lying for this. So right here, it is backwards, but that right there is the number 1. That is the total of net passing yards the Chicago Bears had. You see how that stat line right there, and that's us, hello. You see how that stat line right there is all orange? That's because the Bears did absolutely nothing. You went through an entire game, and had 1 net passing yard, 47 total yards, 46 rushing yards. We're only averaging 1.1 yard per play. Had 6 first downs, went 1 for 11 on 3rd down, 0 for 1 on 4th down, allowed 9 sacks, punted 7 times, and only had the ball for 20 minutes. I don't know how you play that bad in 20 minutes. You can't play that bad in 20 minutes. You didn't have time to do anything that bad, but they did it anyway. So, man, that was really horrible.
And you know what I was thinking the whole time? I was thinking to our discussion about the rookie quarterback struggling. And now it's just further information. I mean, Mac Jones struggled in this last game. Justin Fields. I really hope Justin Fields, this is not the last we see of Justin Fields. And that would just be so awful if this like ruins him for the league, this start. And I guess if anything, it validates Matt Nagy being so emphatic about sitting Fields and starting Dalton. I'm pretty sure that's why Matt Nagy called the game that he did, just to validate himself and show how unready Justin Fields is. But we don't need to. The Bears are not on this list, and that's the reason that the Browns aren't on this list. I think another area that people are gonna maybe sort of raise their eyebrows at is Tampa being so low. I mean, we have them at number 8.
Yep.
This is the defending champs. This is maybe the second best team in the NFC. Why do we put Tampa at number 8?
So Tampa is another one of those teams where we kind of look at the games that they've played. So Dallas, so that was a good win. That was a good win for Tampa. They beat one of our top 10 teams. They beat Atlanta, which isn't that impressive of a win, but they still handled them exactly how, you would have expected them to handle. But that loss against the Rams, I think Tampa cracks our top 5 if they did what the Niners did against the Packers. And that's another team who was left off the list, who you could probably give a better justification for that because you're more connected with that team than I am. But the score doesn't indicate how one-sided really that game was. And I think if Tampa goes out and they lose on a game-winning drive by Matthew Stafford, or they lose on a game, winning field goal by the Rams, I think our outlook of the Bucs is a lot different than putting them at 8, because it just looked like they couldn't compete with the Rams at all that day. The Rams were in complete control of the entire game. So again, not that we're saying that the teams above them are heads and shoulders better than Tampa, like by the end of the season, Tampa, I expect them to be number 2 in the NFC. But right now, through week 3, it felt fine putting them at 8 because of, one, how one-sided that game was. And like I said, I think if the outcome of that game is similar to the Green Bay San Francisco game, then we're looking at them in the top 5.
And why would we put Arizona 3-0 team? What's with that place at 6? Maybe talk about why they're above Tampa and Baltimore and why they're below Green Bay and Buffalo in your eyes. Or in our eyes.
So Tennessee is a team that cracked our top 10. They're number 9, I believe. Mm-hmm. So they made people who were high on Tennessee flip the script after week 1. There were so many people who were jumping ship from Tennessee's going to be good, Tennessee's going to be that. They manhandled Tennessee, and they did the one thing that most teams really can't do. They made Derrick Henry look human. They really did. And who knows if that was more Tennessee getting their first game kind of woes out of the way, because they look a lot better now, but they just wrapped up Tennessee. And the Vikings, that win looks a lot better now. Minnesota, they lost to the Bengals, which the Bengals are a pretty decent team, actually. They're not a pushover anymore.
At least for the first 3 weeks. At least for the first 3
weeks. Yeah, they haven't been a pushover by any stretch of the imagination. They go toe-to-toe with the Cardinals, lose at the very end, and then they really, really handle the Seahawks. They play really well against the Seahawks. Minnesota is better than people are giving them credit for. So based on the 2 wins that they've had against those 2 teams, a little close call against Jacksonville, but putting Arizona there, it just didn't feel comfortable for both of us as we were talking about this to put them any lower than 6. It felt right to give them the credit that they deserve because their offense has looked really, really good.
Yeah, I think the placement for them is just that statement that they had in tennis against Tennessee in an opening week. You can't get that out of your head that this team can just explode for points on any team, whether you're good, bad, mediocre, it doesn't matter. Like, that offense has nuclear firepower in Kyler Murray and the weapons that they have around him. And give credit where credit's due. They're undefeated. They do not have the Vikings missed a 30-yard field goal and that's why they beat them. But hey, it's going to count all the same at the end of the year. It still counts for a W.
And then quick little synopsis on why the 49ers are not in it.
Yeah, the reason the Niners are in there, it was judging them with the other 2-1 teams. They really don't have a notable win in my eyes. Jason and I were talking about this before when we were making this list, and really I would give the Niners performance against Green Bay. That was the best performance they had, and that was in a losing effort. So you can't sit here and give them credit for significant wins and the strength of schedule isn't on their side. If we were project, I think they're going to end up being a top 10 team in the NFL. I wholeheartedly think that all my doubts about that team are washed away with that performance they gave against Green Bay on a Sunday night. But through 3 weeks, I don't think they've done enough to be in a top 10.
So those are our power rankings for up and through week 3 of the NFL season. So we are going to close the book on week 3 and we're going to open the book on week 4. We got a couple questions heading into week 4 that we're going to answer here real quickly, and then we'll make our picks. So questions for week 4. We don't have to spend a huge amount of time on these, but these are some storylines looking ahead into week 4. So the biggest one, got to start with this one, is Brady versus the Belichick. Is Brady versus the Patriots the biggest regular season matchup of all time?
Whoa.
I mean,
I don't know if it's the biggest regular season matchup. I mean, it's definitely, you know what I want, and we're not making picks now. I would love to see New England win this game because it really feels like they're a married couple, right? Bill and Tom, they were together for close to 20 years or 20 years. I can't remember, but they were together for 2 decades, right? And then they split. And it really has felt like Tom has gotten all the laughs from that split. And now he was able to make the playoffs, win the Super Bowl with his new team, looking like one of the best teams in the NFC. And Bill has just been struggling. And I would love to see Bill get some semblance of a win against Tom. Yeah. That would just be so, I mean, it's not going to be crazy in the long run. Like Tampa Bay is probably still going to make the playoffs, and New England is going to struggle to make the playoffs in a stacked AFC. But it would be cool just in this one capsule of time. And when we're looking back on this whole documentary of Tom and Bill's story, if that final chapter where maybe the final time they face off is a Bill W and New England getting a little shred of, I don't know, not revenge, because I don't think there's any ill will from the New England fans, but like that, hey, like you're not as good as when you were with us type of thing. And they get that kind of last laugh a little bit. I think that'd be so cool coming out of this week on Sunday Night Football.
And ironically, too, Brady is only like 70 yards away from breaking Drew Brees' all-time passing record. So you know he's going to do it there. So that'll be special for him, honestly. So that'll be really cool. The other game that I heard mentioned, and maybe the biggest of all time, is when Joe Montana played the 49ers when he was on the Chiefs. That reunion after that. But that game was in Kansas City, actually. It wasn't in San Francisco at the time. But we weren't obviously around for that. So that was apparently, I've heard, that was the only other game this week that I heard being thrown around in that conversation.
So the biggest game, it would have been so cool if New England was 3-0 going into this week and they were looking like they were a really good team. Yeah. I think it kind of takes the sting out of it that Tampa Bay and Tom look so much better than Bill and New England going into this game. If both teams were vying for playoff positions, this week would have been so much bigger.
Right.
In my eyes.
All right. So next question for you, and this is more catered towards your 49ers. I felt like giving you one of these. What do you need to see what is the number one thing you need to see from the 49ers this week against Seattle to feel really good about your team?
I think it's got to be about efficiency on offense, not really getting stuck, turning the ball over. I think that was the big thing against Green Bay, that drives were getting stuck, where they really couldn't find a way to move the chains and continue the drive, and the turnovers, that Jimmy G interception when he threw the deep ball to Kittle. I don't think that was his fault. I mean, it was just a great play by Zaire Alexander. And then the fumble was just, that's tough. That's tough to concede that fumble when he threw it like to the side under pressure. I mean, it would be so cool for them to have just a clean game against Seattle, because I know they have the talent to contend with Seattle. And then on the opposite side, the defense, they really haven't been able to play Russell Wilson really well. They really haven't been able to play running quarterbacks really well, apart from Jalen Hurts over the years. It would be really cool to see this defensive line have a great game plan and a redemption for DeMeco Ryan as the defensive coordinator, coming off of a really bad game plan in the last 37 seconds that lost the Niners this game against Green Bay, would be cool to see D'Amico Ryan call up some plays that get the Niners a dub in against Seattle. I don't think it's in Seattle.
It is at home.
It's in San Francisco. Yeah. I think that would just be, it would put the Niner team right on the right track to being a contender back in the NFC where they belong.
So this next question is my favorite question of the entire show. So what undefeated team are you 100% sure is going to win this weekend? And what 3-0 team are you 100% sure is going to lose this weekend and no longer be undefeated? No. What 3-0 team are you 100% sure is going to lose? So who's going to stay? What team are you 100% certain is going to stay undefeated? And which team are you 100% certain is going to not stay undefeated?
Well, I know the Rams play Arizona, so that's a tough one.
Yeah, so one of them automatically is going down.
What do you think? Oh, because they're both playing each other. And the Raiders play the Chargers.
Yep.
Broncos play the Ravens. And who do the Panthers play?
Yeah.
Oh, they play the Cowboys.
Yeah. All the teams have tough games this week. You're guaranteed one team to lose it.
Mm-hmm. I think the Ravens, I would say the Broncos were going to be the team to lose, but the Ravens struggled against Detroit. Oh.
And the Broncos have a good defense. They do have a very solid defense.
I would say that the Cowboys, I would guarantee that the Panthers are going to lose to the Cowboys.
Okay.
Cowboys at home. I have faith. I think.
So who are you guaranteeing is going to stay undefeated? You got the Rams and the Cardinals. You got the Raiders. Playing against the Chargers.
Okay, I don't like Raiders versus Chargers because Raiders are on the road. And I don't like the Broncos. I'm going to take the Rams.
So locking it in. The Rams are going to stay undefeated.
So I think that's the safest pick because we've already discussed multiple times in this podcast that the Rams are the best team in the NFL. So taking the best team in the NFL isn't that much of a stretch. And the Cardinals have for sure shown some weaknesses, struggled against Minnesota. Minnesota was able to explode all over that Cardinals defense. And Jacksonville even showed some success against Arizona, where they were fighting them tooth and nail.
Yeah.
I think the Rams have the firepower to exploit that Arizona defense. And they also have the personnel on their own defense to sort of limit Kyler Murray and what that offense does. So I think that is scary because Arizona is right there with the Rams, is maybe the third best undefeated team in the NFL. So that's tough. I mean, if it was Rams v. Denver, I would have been way more for it. And the reason I wouldn't pick the Raiders is because the Chargers look pretty good and the Chargers are at home. So
yeah, it's an interesting week, and I loved that question because of one, the Rams playing the Cardinals, and just every 3-0 team's got a really tough game. Like they all have hard games. There's no real gimme anywhere. So
this weekend is so good because it's division weekend. So
So with that being said, let's roll into our picks for this week. I finally won last week. It hinged on one game. It was the Rams and the Bucs game. I took the Rams. So what was our percentage? Do you know how many games we got right and how many games we got wrong? If you don't, it's going to be up in the corner anyway, so it doesn't.
I don't know the overall percentage, but I went 9-7 this week, and then you went.
So then 10-6.
10-6.
Because so we differed. Yeah, so. For those of you that don't know, the percentages up in the corners is our accumulated percentages for weeks 1, 2, and 3 for what games we've gotten right. So we're going to head to picks for week 4, get through these as fast as we can, and then we'll send you guys on your way. So Bengals versus Jaguars. I got the Bengals over the Jags at home.
Yeah, Bengals definitely. They look good. That offense looks good even without T. Higgins. Jamar Chase is flourishing before our eyes. I mean,
glad
he looks great.
he found a way to catch the NFL footballs now.
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy. I need to find a way to put him in my fantasy lineup one of these weeks.
I know.
Gotta stop sitting him.
So we got the Titans and the Jets. Feel like that's easy pick for the Titans.
Yeah. Oh, look for Derrick Henry to get 100 rushing yards before the end of the first half.
Yeah. So Lions and Bears might be a little bit of a tricky game for pickers because Chicago's got a good defense. They were fighting tooth and nail last week. They played so well. And as a defense, Sam and I both played on defenses. I mean, if you're playing against a really tough offensive team, it is tough to have it the entire game. Eventually, something's going to give at least once, usually. But I'm going to go with the Lions on the road. The Lions have played some tough teams very, very well. You go back to playing the Niners. They fought back against the Niners. They only lose by 8. I know that they lost to the Packers, but I mean, they win that game against the Ravens. If Justin Tucker doesn't hit a record-breaking field goal, they beat the Ravens. So I'm going to take Detroit. I think they're going to be pissed after last week. I think the Bears are going to play much better this week, but I think the Lions get the win on the road.
Yeah, I'm banking on the Bears playing better. I think this is the perfect matchup for them. A little bit. I just want to see Justin Fields succeed a little bit. It's a scary because I think Detroit honestly has played better than the one win in Chicago over the last 3 weeks. So it's definitely a little tough. But that Bears defense sneakily has played really well.
Mm-hmm. Very, very well. So next game is going to be Colts and the Dolphins. I think that game really hinges on the health of Carson Wentz.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm going to take the Dolphins at home against the Colts. I don't feel great about it.
I'm taking the Colts away.
I don't feel great about it. I really don't.
I'm going to ask you, who knows Jacoby Brissett better than Frank Wright and the Colts, who had him for the last 3 years?
Maybe. And I don't feel great about it. I really don't. But after watching the Dolphins play this week, watching how tough their defense is, the game is going to hinge on the health of Carson Wentz. I don't know. I maybe call it recency bias for watching the Dolphins. I'm going to take them at home. Got the Browns and the Vikings. I could see Minnesota winning this game. I really could. I'm going to take the Browns. I think they're the safer bet, but I would not be shocked if the Vikings win this game.
Dalvin Cook's still out, right?
Think so, but Madison played really well.
Yeah, but he's not Dalvin
He's
Cook.
not Dalvin Cook, but he is as good as you can get for a backup. Had 26 carries, 112 yards. So again, I think Kirk Cousins has been playing exceptional football through the first 3 weeks of this season. So I could see him tearing up the Browns defense. If there was an upset game to pick, it's this one, but I'm going to stick with the Browns.
Hey, Jenna, could you get off? What are you doing? Sorry.
What?
Just the Wi-Fi is kind of unstable.
I can turn off of my phone. I need to use it.
Can you use your hotspot?
We're almost done. We have like 3 minutes left.
We have 3 minutes left. It should be fine. Baby, you don't have to do anything.
I turned it off.
No, you don't have to do anything. Okay.
Good?
We'll hurry. Sorry. All right. Where were we?
Browns and Vikings. Who you got?
I'm going to take Cleveland. I think Cleveland's going to be better. I think I'd love to see what that defense does. If the last game wasn't an admiration game, I'd love to see Myles Garrett go for another 4.5 sacks. Yeah. Maybe him and Chandler Jones vying for the NFL record in sacks this year would be so cool.
So who you got with Atlanta and Washington?
I'm going to take Washington. I know Washington struggled against Buffalo, but Buffalo's a good team. And Atlanta seems like the team to right the ship against for every other one. They just seem like that form. I know they beat the Giants, but that's not really saying anything.
Yeah, I don't feel good enough about Atlanta yet to pick them to upset anybody yet. So I'll take Washington as well. I think it's an easy pick for the Bills over the Texans.
Yeah, definitely. Bills. I'd love to see Bills go for 30+ points again.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Saints over the Giants. I feel like that's a fairly safe bet.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the Saints are, but I think they are better than the Giants.
Yeah, I think that's as conclusively as we can say it. So Chiefs at the Eagles.
Yeah,
the Chiefs on the road.
Chiefs end the losing streak and get a win against Philly.
Agreed. I think the Cowboys end the Carolina Panthers winless streak. Cowboys get a win at home.
Yeah, like I said in the question before, I think Dallas wins.
So I think next game as well, I got the 49ers at home against Seattle.
Nice. I love that. It's a scary game because Russell Wilson he's been he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. So
he's got the highest passer rating through 3 weeks, I believe.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think he's at like 136. So
if San Francisco can find a way to beat Seattle, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. I think the 49ers, again, they played well enough against Green Bay that I feel good about picking them. Seattle's been up and down. I mean, really, that's the best way I can put it. So I think it's safer right now to take the 49ers at home. I know you were kind of going back and forth with the Cardinals Rams, but I got no reservation picking the Rams at home over the Cardinals. I think it's a 10+ point win for them at home against the Cardinals.
Ooh, I think it's a little close. I want to see it a little closer. It'd be cool.
I hope so. Yes.
Arizona challenge the Rams a little bit more and really see what the Rams. I mean, we saw what the Rams, I guess, were made of in that Indianapolis game when they came back to win. But it'd be really cool to see like a 34-41 game that we know is capable.
Mm-hmm. All right. So next one, Packers at home versus Steelers. Got Aaron Rodgers.
You just got Aaron Rodgers? Just Aaron Rodgers?
I just got Aaron Rodgers, yeah.
It looks like Aaron's just coming out to the field alone. What is this?
He's going to play offense and defense. 1v22, baby.
Yeah, I got Green Bay winning at home. I think Pittsburgh needs to figure something. Oddly enough, it's cool that that's the rematch of the 2011 Super Bowl.
There you go.
Remember when Aaron won his only one?
Mm-hmm. Still a great quarterback. So we got the Ravens on the road against the Broncos. I think the Broncos lose. Mm-hmm. I think the Ravens handle the Broncos, and the Broncos drop out of the undefeated
group. So there's only going to be maybe one undefeated team left.
Yeah.
Not the Raiders.
Well, there's automatically going to be 2 because we know the Rams are going to win. I'm saying we know the Rams, but then we know the Raiders are going to win as well. I got the Raiders over the Chargers on Monday night on the road.
We're just going to skip over the Sunday night game.
No, I was going to save it because you just talked about the Raiders, so it's a nice transition. So thanks for ruining that.
So I think the Chargers can get it done at home.
I'm saying I don't know how much of a home game that is going to be for the Chargers. The Raiders fans travel really well on the West Coast on the road. So I got the Raiders at home. I'm not picking against my boys. I don't care who they play. And then I got the Buccaneers putting a whoop ass on the Patriots. And
as
much as it'd be nice to see them win, I think the Bucs win.
Yeah, like I said, it would be so cool to see Bill get that win over Tom, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I think Brady throws for like 7 bazillion yards and they run up the score. I mean, if the Patriots don't win, which I don't expect them to, in that case, I hope Brady wins by like 7 points.
You think he's going to get booed or cheered?
If you are a Patriots fan and you boo him, you're an idiot. I'm sorry. You have no grounds to stand on to boo Tom Brady. 0.
But he left.
None.
I don't think he'll get
0.
booed. I don't think he will. But isn't it funny that the football doesn't do the? Do they do the tribute videos that what basketball does? Like they do one for every single player.
I don't know.
New England's got a before kickoff, they have to do like a 20-minute coronation to Tom Brady for what he's done for that franchise.
And then I'll give you guys an update since we mentioned the fantasy team. I won by 4 points. 4 points. Zeke did not crack the 30-point mark. So I think my team played about as well as it could have. My team played up to and past its potential this week. So after having what I didn't think was a very good draft, made some interesting GM moves that have worked out in my favor, thank God. So the Mike Williams one is a gigantic pickup. So how's your team doing? I didn't check.
I lost.
Oh, you did? Oh, so you got knocked out of first place.
Yeah, I'm not undefeated anymore. Allen Robinson still hasn't shown up. I think I got to deal him, but it sucks because he has no value. And then David Montgomery. I think I want to bundle them to get another running back.
Yeah. I was a little worried about my Najee Harris pick for a little bit, but he looks like they're finally starting to work him in as the 3-down pass plus running back, the all-purpose back.
He got 14 targets and 12 check down throws. That is the most Ben Roethlisberger BS that I've ever seen. 12 check down
worked in my favor. I don't care.
I don't even think. Did he even get? How many rushing yards did he get? Did he get like 30?
No, it was more than that, but it wasn't. It wasn't very many. I'll double check real quick. Let me pull it up. He got 40.
That's a 30-point performance for a running back.
Yeah. Let me read you real quick because I have one team right now that is currently in first place in another league, and I just want to read off this roster that I have real quick. It's Herbert, Kamara, Najee Harris, DeAndre Hopkins, Cooper Kupp, Rob Gronkowski, Marvin Jones, Robbie Gould, and then I have the Saints defense. And then I'm not counting Deontay Johnson, who was on my bench, who was questionable. And then I also have Myles Gaskin and Tyson Williams. That team put up 159 points this week, and I was like, thank you very much for that.
Bro, I wanted to draft Cooper Kupp so badly. Like, he was a guy that I think he got picked. I mean, heck, if I could have gone back and drafted him instead of Allen Robinson, because I think Allen Robinson was my 4th round pick. And he has averaged like 7 points through 3 games. And doesn't seem like that Bears offense is something I want to invest in.
Be a part of, yeah. So, well, we thank you guys for being a part of this broadcast. We really do appreciate your guys' support. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we hope you enjoyed Dom. Again, Dom, if you're watching this, thank you for, again, being on the show. We'll have you back on. We'll have a full college football episode sometime within the next month or so. We'll bring them on again and just have a full show dedicated to college football. Sam and I will do our due diligence for research to make sure we sound as smart as Dom.
Maybe when the first playoffs rankings come out or something like that.
Yeah, first official ones. Yeah, something like that. So we hope you guys enjoyed the show, and we will see you all next week. Have a safe weekend. Enjoy the football. Enjoy the baseball as well as the season's winding down. And see you all next week.
Bye, everyone.
Interesting octave you just hit.